to get hung up on bonding the entire time, but to get a couple of follow-up questions, and I'll try to combine them all. You've kind of touched on what some of the major challenges are, whether it's more money or trying to get projects in or out and trying to get the funding, but also getting the votes and working with each other to find those votes. And is it necessary to have two separate bills? Am I too naive in thinking money in, money out, whether it's two bonding bills or one? It's still a bonding bill. Your thoughts?
Well, the difficulty with the two is that you're going to, if you have one or the other as the one you want to use, you're going to have to get the votes for it. So if it's the capital restoration, we're looking at the full 220 million, which might not be enough, but it's a big chunk of money to do that. How will people vote on that? Because if they're looking out for more parochial projects within their area that they'd like to see happen, what kind of support are you going to get the capital restoration? Again, it's just, it's going to be difficult because you're going to have the majority in each of those, or at least one of those, in order to make it happen. So the capital restoration might not have it because, if that's the first one that comes forward, why would you support that if you don't know that the other one's going to come forward? And if the other one comes forward first, it's just not large enough. It doesn't cover enough people in enough parts of the state to say, we feel confident this is a good way. Part of that too becomes the House position when you're in conference. Well, how many people want to say we support this? We don't support such a low amount. We really want to have a larger amount. So I think it's just a reality of the situation, and I would agree, bonding bills are good for the state of Minnesota. They are good for our construction workers. They are, it's a positive thing, and certainly locally we have seen and been the beneficiaries many years of good, strong bonding bills, and that's our approach. We'd like to see a good, strong bonding bill. The Hormel Institute clearly would be in a final bonding bill, so we want to make sure that happens.
I would say with the two bills that are coming forward right now, they need to be running down the track at the same time. I mean, we can't push one through without some thought on the other. So we need to be working on that constantly. I still think the capital improvement bill is probably a little bit big for biting off in one time here. We need to spread that out over maybe 4 years' time, spread that funding out for the capital improvements. We're not going to make all those improvements in 1 year, so why are we bonding for all that in 1 year? With that in mind, you could make the other part of the bill a little bit bigger so that more local projects could get into the bill. It can't be mammoth, but we could improve it some so that we can find some of those votes so that we can do some of those important projects out there. Senator Sparks said, we've got a small amount for roads and bridges. I mean, if you look at each county, I know in Monroe County and Freeborn County, we've got a lot of those old truss and bridges there that are just breaking down right now. And every single one of them that you want to fix, they're like $170,000 to $200,000. I mean, go talk to the engineers and they can tell you there's just a huge need here. We have a couple thousand of them across the state of Minnesota. And so the infrastructure needs that we need to be looking at across the state, we need to get that number up a little bit more for roads, for bridges, and just the overall number up so we can help out a few more community projects that are going to be. But we need to be pushing both these bills together, all as one unit. I don't see either one of them passing on their own, or if you're just going to make an effort to pass a line first.
Senator Sparks.
Well, again, I think, in the Senate's a different track, but ultimately the key would be just to get something to a conference station and start to have that negotiations. And on the Senate side, as Senator Parry said, the current makeup of the Senate right now is 37 Republican members and 30 DFL members. And so what gets to be kind of tricky is you're kind of finding out right here, as we start to move some things away, if you take away a Rochester Civic Center, which is fine, the people from Rochester might not be too happy. So then you move a vote there to gain a vote here. There's some people that weren't very happy from the Duluth area that feel that they were kind of slighted or didn't get anything in the bond. So it's just going to be kind of that kind of a shell game till we get to the final thing. But I would agree that I think if we talk about bonding and where the state of Minnesota ranks, our total debt per capita ranks 43rd in the nation. I think if most people understand that for every 3 cents of every $1 of your taxpayer dollars goes towards paying down those bonds, it really is a pretty good investment. Especially right now when construction costs are quite low and interest rates are really low. And so I think that we'll continue to work with it. Obviously there's some work on both sides of the aisle. It's going to take both help from the Democrats and Republicans to get it done. So, but again, this is not the first time we've been through this, so it's going to be an interesting process. I know it's hard to watch it from the outside, but we can do it.
Senator Perry.
You know, again, I'll just say, I don't think the size of the bonding bill really is as concerning as what's in the bonding bill. And for me personally, I would love to be able to see both sides of the aisle, walk away from the Capitol at the end of the session and say, we did a bonding bill, and we listened to the citizens, and we know it's about job creation, and we know it's about infrastructure, and we know it's about roads and bridges, and asset preservation, taking care of what we have today. That would be one heck of a campaign slogan, that you took care of the citizens' wants, and that's what they want. And so I'm not so hung up on the size at this point, though if you have not been to the Capitol, folks, you'll have tears in your eyes when you see how that thing is disintegrating. If we don't take care of it now, it has no constituents, remember that. The Capitol has no constituents. And I think that's why there's such a push right now. Even our governor is concerned about it. He sat in some of the same preservation meetings that I've sat in. There is a concern when you're sitting in my office on the third floor and you watch a chunk of cement fall past your window and hit the ground. And I'm not exaggerating. So something has to be done to the people's building, and I think there's a lot of support for that right now. So we'll get something done with the bonding bill, and hopefully it'll be for the citizens. So.
All right, thank you. We're going to change up a little bit. Representative Murray, we're going to start with you, and then we'll go to Representative Pompey on our next question. Let's change to energy. And under current Minnesota energy policy, baseload energy options are virtually limited to natural gas. What vision do you have for the future energy policy to make all sources of baseload power available to meet future energy demand?
Well, I think our caucus is very much behind all sources of energy being on the table here. We tried to lift the coal moratorium last year with no luck there. I think there's new technologies going on in that area that we could make coal a safer used source. Nuclear power, we're working on some areas there that I think that can be done a lot safer now. We can't continue. We're putting up windmills, and that's great. That's another source of energy, but we can't put up 10,000 of them here across southern Minnesota. There is a limit as to what we can do here. So I think everything has to be on the table. We have to be looking at all sources and how can we put all these together. And that might include the coal, the nuclear, it includes the ethanol, the biofuels. Those types of things are very important to southern Minnesota, especially because of all the agricultural business going on in this area. So I think, all that has to be on the table. We have to be looking at all. We can't just close out part of it and say, well, this just doesn't work because coal is dirty. You know what? There's a lot of new technologies going on. Let's take a look at them. Let's be reasonable about what we're doing here. Nobody wants a dirty environment. Nobody wants to leave the place worse for their family, for their kids, than the way we found it. But there are safe ways to do some of this, and I think we need to be a little bit more open to looking at some of these ways and allowing some of these additional sources to be used going forward.
Representative Pompey.
Okay, certainly we have to be concerned about, when it comes to energy, we have to be concerned about cost and reliability. We have to be concerned because if it goes too far out of whack with the cost, then we're not going to be able to develop economically. We're not going to be able to, homeowners aren't going to be able to, stay in their homes, and businesses aren't going to be able to meet the bottom line. So we have to make sure that we're doing what we can to have a low-cost effort when it comes to our utilities and our energy. But we also have to have reliability, and certainly we are a leader. Minnesota is a leader in having renewable energy, having wind energy and solar, and doing what we can to make sure that we capture what we have here and use it to the best ability, so that we, as a state, benefit from that, and we're not just getting fuel from somewhere else and using that, or coal from North Dakota or whatever. So, but we can't just rely on that. Wind, sometimes, like a day like today, we're good with wind, but on some days we don't have a lot of wind. We might not have as much solar in the winter months as we might in the summer months. So we have to make sure also that we have that reliability, and that's the concern, I think, if you just go with renewable energy and are concerned about that. So we have to be able to find the right balance, and we have to continue to make good policy decisions that help us to find that balance.
Very good. Senator Perry.
Well, thank you. We could all sit up here and repeat ourselves on that. I had one gentleman tell me the other day Lady Bird Johnson would be rolling over in her grave. She saw all the wind energy going up because she was so against billboards back then. I'm concerned. I'm concerned that we're focusing on items that have proven to have very low efficiency, that you virtually can't get a return on your investment. I'd much rather see us put more energy into those that have that think power, that could come up with that plan for us, to give us the balance using all, but not overabundance of just one. And I think that's where we need to go, and I think we need to tax our higher education folks and those that have been trained in school to take a good, long, hard look and help them come up with a plan that will work for not only the state, but across the country. So.